The holiday park with all its Kiwiana camping image is still a mystery in many ways because we don't know what that upgrade is, and unfortunately we haven't had the privilege, or as I mentioned it before, of being able to see those plans, actually really understand them. Well, it might be the council's decision, but I would think that... Yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Then there was, when I guess the camping ground was off the management plan and there was that huge groundswell of people wanting to sort of reverse the decision, the main reason at that time cited to keep the camp was that people didn't really want change. And I must admit, you sort of had to think about things like, I know we don't necessarily like the fact that we're going to live in an intensified area, but the facts of life are that we do have to accept some change because we've got 20,000 people knocking at our door right now. And so making the right decision for that space is really important. About a third of the people who emailed me who wanted to save the camp also didn't want commercial activity on the reserve. So I'm just saying that people were ill-informed. Like, a lot of people didn't really understand that a camping ground is actually a commercial activity. People talked about the yachting hub as elitist, and I can tell you that no athletes start out their life as elite. They get into sailing and wakarama like my daughter did in school, and they don't own their own boats. They borrow them, and they do need a place to store them. And if they are able to do that, then their mums and dads don't need to turn up in the SUVs and, congest the spaces and that sort of thing. So the question we have to answer is which option really provides the greatest amenity for the wider community, from youth to the very old people in the community to senior citizens. And we know what the options are. I mean, is it the camping ground with the upgrades? Is it the marine activity hub with the grass roof that... Sorry? Okay.
There's 20 elite savers, but the camping ground says hundreds of people that come through the door.
Yep, I know that. I'm just asking the question because it's something we all have to consider. It's a really important decision. Okay?
I'm sorry, Member Rowe, I'm just going to cut you off there. The interruption is getting to the point now where members of the public are entering into the debate, and I just want to re-emphasise the issues that we've got in getting to this point. I appreciate that some of you are very unhappy with the things you're hearing, but regardless, everyone who has had the opportunity to speak was afforded the same respect, and it's very difficult for people who want to express themselves to feel that they can do so if they're going to be constantly judged and interjected on. So I please ask that you just respect the board members who are trying to say their piece and inform this process of the board.
Okay,
Member
so I'm almost finished. Okay, all I was saying is that is it the camping ground with the unknown upgrades? Is that the option that people want? It sounds like possibly that is. Is it the marine activity hub with the grass roof that sort of cleverly mitigates the space that the building itself actually consumes? Or is it the fact that we just clear the decks completely and have the reserve as open space? I've been listening to everybody here tonight, and the answer really is quite overwhelming. I mean, the people speak, and we have to listen. I'm a great supporter of sport. I'm a great supporter of excellence and doing the right thing. And after listening to everybody here tonight, I think that in the public interest, we actually have an obligation to at least explore something that we haven't explored. And I believe that is we need to explore what that upgrade for the camp might look like.
So, is that your speaking turn? So that's Member Rowe's speaking turn. Are there any The speakers to the motion. Member Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Interestingly enough, in April, when we passed a fairly lengthy resolution, in fact, the first part of it was that all board members, they all voted for it, recognised that public controversy remains in the community around possible uses of the northern activity zone of Takapuna Beach Reserve, despite completion of the reserve management plan process in 2013. And the recommendations put up initially by the chair, one would have to really ponder how that controversy has gone away. It hasn't, from that point of view. And so in April, we put in a mechanism to determine what did people want. And the chair did ask at the briefing last week whether people of our area were fatigued by being asked all the time. Well, the question is, if 7,800 people reflects fatigue, then I don't know what an enthusiastic audience would reflect. And I want to put in context, Wellington has been going through a process engineered by the Local Government Commission of an amalgamation. Now, it included all of Wellington, Porua, all the huts and Wairarapa, a significantly larger population than our area, plenty of TV, radio, paper coverage, which we weren't able, obviously, to have. And in all that controversy, they ended up with 9,000 submissions for that whole area, for something that people felt really strongly about. So 7,800 is significant. And when the mechanism was put through in April, I would have been, if someone was asking me, you know, what would you like to get out of it, Mike? Well, I would have been really happy if we got 5,000, given that when we did the unitary plan in the previous term, wasn't it, Councillor Duffy? Yeah. We got 2,500, and we had public meetings of 500 people. We were by far the most significant responses on the unitary plan on what affects their most important asset, their home. Here, we've got 7,800. Now, I would have been comfortable with, say, a 60-40, and I thought when we introduced and we had the public forum, the person actually made, one of the speakers made a very valid comment that there was a real risk of a split vote between open space, a camp holiday park with upgrades, and which could split it as compared with a solid vote coming through for the community marine hub. Well, that didn't actually occur. We got a clear message, 80%. Far exceeded what I would have thought of, about 60%. The next was open space at 9%. And the marine hub, I'd hate to think how much they actually paid per person who contributed. I suspect a lot of it was probably donated, but, you know, you're looking at a significant amount per person, probably. And so what are we heading for? We're heading for the possibility that the 80% that people actually really want, we're now, as per that resolution, basically moving towards dumping the holiday park. I can't even see how you'd even reach that conclusion, that you completely ignore what the community is saying. And it's outrageous that it's even on the table. I do have a confession to make. I've actually been always supportive that we do need an elite yachting facility. That's never in anything that anyone will find, and they can look all they like. I've always put the two points of view. We do need an elite yachting facility. The question is, what works best? And I've also said that the Takapuna waters probably presents the best waters in New Zealand, or at least in Auckland, for training for our Olympic sailors. No question on it. And I bet, and we've suggested in our amendment that has been accepted through, is that we work, and that was the suggestion before, that I was keen to work with Hatton Yachting New Zealand to get something that was actually going to work. I didn't really want a situation arose that we would still be battling this years later. That you probably could get 90% support on the original plan or some other thing, particularly if you're looking at the Strand as pedestrian only, and there's ways that that could actually be achieved. The management plan, and that's been the cause of a lot of our issues. It definitely was legally correct, there's no question about it. But having done from my area of Devonport, is that in all the management plans we undertook, and there were controversial areas, we never ended up with the controversy still there, as per our resolution, that all board members recognise that even after the management plan, it hasn't put to bed the controversy. And that's really, who's the park for? It's for the local community. And we're asking for you, and I wasn't flippant when I thought, and I have some real concerns, that if we go off on a tangent and get rid of the beach holiday park, we're really, and ignoring that 80%, we're actually bringing local government into disrepute. And I have some real concerns. And I can't even see how anyone could come to that conclusion. And so it's with a really heavy heart that we're in this actual situation. We should have been tonight looking at moving things forward, accepting what the community are saying, and working with Hatton Yachting New Zealand to find another alternative that will work and have better synergies with the Takapuna Boat Club. And so that it's a win-win, rather than having a battle. And what really concerns me, it takes the mind off our board, off other issues that we need to be dealing with. It's consumed, and I feel really frustrated in the 3 years, in the 18 months that I was chair, that this took up so much time, particularly not helped by the original legal actions undertaken. But this is a time for real leadership, and I would be hoping that the board would be providing that leadership, respecting the views of our community, and looking to work with the elite yachting facility to find a solution that's actually going to work and get the place finished, but definitely not on our Takapuna Beach Reserve, but some area perhaps close to it.
So there's one more speaker who hasn't spoken. So Member Hale, do you wish to use your speaking turn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, and actually thank you everybody for coming along, and I'm quite sincere in that. I think it's actually it's really good to have that participation of so many people and the passion coming out. In some respects tonight we're kicking for touch, which is probably a bit of a shame, and I think Member Cohen's just sort of alluded to that indirectly. However, there's been a high level of involvement, and I think it behoves us to make sure that we do get the right outcome going forward. So for that reason, I'm prepared to support the motion as it has been put up. I'm assuming that at my last look it hasn't changed very much from what the amendments were were made a few minutes ago. I think one of the things that's very clear, that the common thrust from everybody coming through is the public accessibility and the public importance for this bit of land. And that's come through, I think, very clear, both from the proposal from the Community Pub Yachting New Zealand HAT group, and it has also come through from the group that are here supporting the caravan park to remain. One of the concerns I had was the fact that 10 years ago, or 12 years ago it would have been, around this table, and in fact I think Councillor Wood was Mayor and I was Deputy Mayor, this issue came to the board, or came to the council, I should say, not the board, came to the council, and there was, ironically, a huge thrust to get rid of the caravan park. And there was quite a huge thrust to get rid of it. At that time, we negotiated and said that we would reduce the size, and there would be a 10-year lease, which has already been addressed. There would be a 10-year lease, which would then see the land returned to the community for use, recognising it was flat space and it was a very valuable asset, recognising that there was anticipated growth in the city at the time, and that was the intention, and that was clearly made very clear to the current owner, who I think from memory was Mr. Harvey at the time. And so at that time, a new lease was negotiated for 10 years. The chalets were the resource consent was due to expire around about the same time, which would coincide with the returning of that land that council intended in approximately 10 years' time. Move on 10 years. Clearly the direction of the community appears, from what we're hearing from the last submission process, that there has been a huge thrust in the opposite direction. So it's not easy when you've sat round and heard a huge thrust wanting it closed, and then now we're hearing a huge thrust wanting it to remain open. And I note that at the time, most of the ones that supported it remaining as a caravan park were very much of the opinion that it would be going in 10 years' time.